I'm Sue Mclaren, collection manager in the section of mammals. I take care of the mammal research collection. Today I'm going to talk to you about the brown bear. Next to me is an exhibit of female brown bear and her 3 cubs. And over my shoulder is a male brown bear. For a long time, before we knew how to do anything with DNA, the way we determined what animals were related to each other was more about what they looked like, their size, sometimes behavioral things like when they mated. And sometimes that was pretty helpful, and sometimes it turns out, now that we can do DNA, that it wasn't really that accurate. So once upon a time, and in my lifetime, we thought there were a whole lot of different bears that looked brown. And so the European and Asian bear was often called the Russian brown bear, and the bears in the United States, some of them were called grizzly bears. The biggest known bear was called the Kodiak bear, which came from Kodiak Island. But nowadays we know that all of those bears that live in the northern hemisphere, so all of North America, Europe, Asia, they're all the same species. So in this exhibit, we're showing Kodiak Island, and the female brown bear, she is the fiercest in defending her cubs. Brown bears eat all kinds of things, just like we know black bears do. They eat small animals, they eat nuts and berries, but they also will prey on larger prey. But they aren't carnivores. They are really omnivores. And in parts of Alaska, especially when the salmon are running, that's the favorite food. And so in this exhibit, you've got the young, feeding on a salmon. There are times when there is some kind of really good food source, and that food source draws them all in. And so you may have seen pictures. I know the brown bear in Alaska, just a whole bunch of them near each other, and it's almost like they're so focused on the food that they don't notice each other. One thing I can say is that even though some of the bears that are painted into the background on this exhibit are darker brown, they really are kind of almost this blonde color. So, it's not inaccurate to see bears that look this color. Now, on the other hand, the exhibit right next to this one is the black bear. And you're probably much more familiar with the black bear. You may have seen some where you live, or sometimes on TV, they'll mention one that's come into an area around where people are. And that's pretty common, when they're looking for food, and there are so many people in Pennsylvania, we're gonna interact with them from time to time. The reason I like the black bear exhibit is that it is so quintessentially Pennsylvania. We've got the mountain laurel, which is our state flower. The setting also includes hemlock trees, which are the state tree. And there is a ruffed grouse in the front. Get a good view of our state bird in that picture. Even though the black bear isn't our state mammal, it's a very common mammal in Pennsylvania. And some of them are much bigger than the normal ones you see. Usually the range is maybe between 200 and 400 pounds. There are records in the 700s. Black bears can come in different colors. So there's a shade, a coloration known as a cinnamon bear. You can have everything from the typical black bear, black, to white black bears. They aren't albinos. A number of years ago, people discovered this small area in Alaska where bears had become sort of grayish, and they really blended in very well with their surroundings. If you've ever been to any place where there are glaciers and glaciers are melting, you know that the water in those areas look very much like the glaciers themselves. They've got this very interesting shade of blue. It's almost a turquoise blue. And these grayish black bears became known as glacier bears because they just blended in so beautifully with their background. And this is a terrific example of survival of the fittest, because they could not only hide from their prey, but they could also hide from predators because they just blended into the background better. The other thing that's kind of neat about this exhibit, I love looking at the bald eagle kind of turning around looking at the bears, and I don't know whether its expression is telling you that it's afraid of the bears, or it's really going to guard the food that it has.